This video features another Sector 3 example and is designed to help you to get the most out of this data, showing some more features of Sector 3. So we are on the Sector 3 web page of our website, and I've already selected some companies from the automotive sector, and I've also already pressed the Sector 3 button, so it's brought back all their different segments, and so we can take a closer look at these. So starting with General Motors, you can probably immediately see that we've got a gap between these two groups of segments. These are essentially two separate breakdowns. In XBRL speak, these members exist in different dimensions. So we're interested in the automotive sector, and so we can classify it in this breakdown or that breakdown. Because they are in two separate dimensions, it should be possible to select both and for them not to clash, for them not to double count. But we're going to keep these things simple. What I want to do is isolate the automotive segment so that I can focus on that and I'm not having my numbers sort of polluted by profits from any sort of financial transactions, etc., etc. So we can classify the automotive sector here, and I could just put in my own code like auto, for example, or I can use some of the codes over here. Previously I've used the NAICS code, so for a bit of a change, why don't we use the SIC codes? So let's see if we can find something appropriate. We're looking for something that, yes, might be appropriate. Transportation equipment, that might be the one we want. So, oh yeah, motor vehicles and equipment. Let's see if we can find even more specific. Motor vehicles and car bodies. That'll do the trick. So if I just click on that, just a very simple click, it automatically inserts it against the segment that I want to attach it to, and I can then go down to Ford Motor Co, and I just have to click on that box, and again it automatically adds it. So that's Ford and General Motors sorted out. And now we've got Chrysler and Tesla, or Tesla, not quite sure how you pronounce that, and both of these companies do not have a breakdown of their segments, and the reason for that is they don't provide one, simply because they just operate in the automotive sector. So what are we going to do about that? Well, the reason why we have put these companies in here is because we can also code them in a similar fashion. So it doesn't matter if a company just operates in a single sector, we can include their data with all the other segments to create an entire aggregate for the particular sector, or indeed to do comparisons. So that's one of the features I really wanted to highlight with Sector 3, that you have total flexibility to make sure that you're building complete sectors. So once we've classified the segments, we can go back up to the top and we can click on the Rank Sectors button. This doesn't do anything very exciting at the moment, other than to confirm that you have classified the number of segments that you might have expected. I wanted to classify one segment for each company, so I've got a count of 4, so that's correct. Happy with that. And so now I can download all of this data by clicking Sector 3 to Excel, and it will bring it down in a spreadsheet. And in the next part of this video, we will have a look and see what it looks like in Excel. When you open up the downloaded spreadsheet, you'll find yourself in the Sectors tab. Now we want to go to the raw data first, which is in the XBRL sheet. So once we are there, now at this point you may want to make sure you've had a look at one of the other Sector 3 videos, the one entitled Verify and Modify Data in Excel, because it explains a lot of information about this raw data and how you indeed can verify and modify it, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So I'm going to get on with that and not spend too much time explaining it, just kind of do it. As I said, if you want a bigger explanation, then have a look at the other video. So what we want to do first is apply some filters. So we shall do that, and I want to look at just information for the sector I'm interested in, which is aerospace 3711. So we will filter on that, and also we will do just as we did with the example that I talked about in the other video, which will just restrict ourselves to 2012 to make it easy to see what we want to see, and the data items we're using in this particular model, which is assets, pre-tax profit and revenues. And right, okay, brilliant. That filters me down to the values that I want to use, and I can make sure that they are all present or not. So yes, for Ford I can see I've got my assets, pre-tax profits and revenues, which was great, and similarly for Chrysler and Tesla, those values are all present and correct, not surprisingly, because we're just using the figures for the total company. But when we look at General Motors, we can see that we've only got assets. Now what we therefore need to think about doing is modifying the data. Now those values may not necessarily be missing, it just could be that they haven't been classified the way that we want them to be. I'm going to use a different technique to the one I used in the other video I mentioned in order to see if I can find these particular values. The reason for that is it may well be a quicker way of doing it, and also it will show you some other features of our data. Now we know assets is sound, and we know that assets appeared in this particular section, so the chances are that the other values we want are also in this section. So if we filter by this section, which is the bottom one, we have then just got assets, so we've got to remove one of our other filters. So let's make sure that we get all the values, not just the ones that we've standardized. And we have all the values, and we can perform another little trick. Because we've got the order of the items as they appear in the section, we can also sort by that here, smallest to largest, and then we have all the values as they would appear, or as they appear if you were to look at the equivalent text section, be that in, say, the HTML 10K, or indeed the text sections which are required to be filed as part of the XBRL. So if we look at these labels, this is what we would see in the table, and we would see these values. So what I'm going to do, just as a sort of a little diversion, is to show you that you can quickly check these values if at any point you wanted to make sure that these are absolutely the values that you want, by comparing the values that you've downloaded here with indeed those values as they appear in the text sections. Now we make that really easy and quick to do by virtue of our website. So if we go back to our website, which we need to call up here, and if, for example, you hover over the name of one of the companies in the filing, actually you probably can't quite see it, but it basically shows you the link right at the bottom here. So rather than just show you it, I will take you to that link, and it will take you straight to the SEC page for that particular filing. So you, for example, could quickly open the 10K by clicking on that, or indeed have a look at the text sections in the interactive data. So we're opening it now, and we're looking for a section in the notes to the financial statements. So if we just scroll down looking for something relating to segments, looks like it's going to be right at the bottom. Yep, there we go, and click on that. You will see the section. Essentially, I mean, this section is just basically taken out of the 10K. So you've got a good description of the segments, and then at the bottom a table from which the values that you actually see in the XBRL have in effect been lifted. So if we go along, we can see that's the automotive column, and these are the various data items. So these are things we should be seeing if we go back to our XBRL in our spreadsheet. So remember those names there, and maybe remember some of these values here. And if we go back to our spreadsheet, there we go, and have a look, yep, we can see that we've got yes, external customers, intersegment, and we were looking for something about 1.5, weren't we? Yeah, 1.5. So as you can see, these are absolutely the values that you see in the tables in exactly the same order. So you can very quickly verify, if you have any doubts, that these are indeed the values that the company disclosed both in their text 10K and their XBRL 10K. So yeah, just wanted to sort of home in on that feature just to show you how useful it can be to be able to compare the two, and also it does enable us to very quickly find any missing data items, because we can quickly look down here, go down, sort of expecting to see at some point a profit figure. That looks like one income loss before automated interest, income taxes. Yeah, exactly, that's what we want. We want a pre-tax profit figure of some sort. So we can, well, first of all, we can note that the reason why it wasn't classified was because it's an extension. So that's the reason why we didn't pick it up when we downloaded the data. Now we need to classify that with the correct standard data item that we want to use. Now, handily, the tag that we are looking for is in the sectors tab. So we can take it out of this pivot table here, with a quick copy and paste back to our raw data. And we need to paste in just the value because it had formatting on it. So we need to use paste special and put the value in. And there we have it. That has been tagged. What we also need to worry about is where is our sales or revenues figure. So if we go to the top, that's where revenues tends to be. That's for external customers, and there's the intersegment. So the one after intersegment is the one I'm looking for. Segment reporting information revenue. Yep, that looks like it will do. It's revenue. Notice that it's actually a US GAAP item, and the reason why it hasn't been classified is that only a few companies use this particular data item, and we focus on classifying companies that have used figures that you might see, or data items that you might see, for example revenues here, that would appear like in the face of the income statement, in the actual financial statement itself. So at the moment we're not picking up this particular US GAAP item. We will be in the future, but at the moment we're not, so that's the reason why it hasn't been classified. So we've classified it now using our revenues tag even, and so we have now got all the items classified for 2012. But we actually want to make sure that we've classified them for every year, so we need to release our year filter, which we can do just by saying clear filter, and we've got all the values for all the different years. And as a result of releasing that filter, by the looks of things, we've lost the order, so let's reclassify them in the correct order, and that will make it much easier to classify all the other years. So again, it's a really simple exercise in terms of copying and pasting the tag for 2012 to the other years for both revenues and income. And there we are. Now let's just make certain that we've got all the values we want by refiltering and maybe taking some filters off. So let's get rid of this particular filter on the sections, because we want to see all the sections for all different companies. We need to just focus on the standard items that we want to use in our model, which is assets, pre-tax profit, and revenues. So we've got those, we've got all the years. Yep, that's looking good. So let's just make sure we've got all the data we want. Well, we've got values for GM, Ford, and Chrysler and Tesla. So yeah, all the data's looking good. So we can now immediately go to our sectors tab and refresh our pivot tables to reveal some ratios for our particular sectors. So yeah, all we have to do is click on the refresh button, and our pivot tables are populated, and we can start to do our sector analysis.